Week 4 NFL Awards.
These are your weekly NFL awards.
Starting with our daddy of the week, and it pains me to do this, it really does, but I have to give credit to the guy who reasserted himself as one of the daddies of the NFL. It is Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if he just missed Xavier Worthy that much, or he was just taking advantage of the Ravens having more defensive players in the blue tent than actually on the field, or if it was some combination of the two, but either way, we finally got a classic Mahomes stat line. 25 for 37, 270 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, en route to a blowout instead of what was supposed to be one of the most competitive games of the week. Mahomes took full advantage of this opportunity to remind us all that he's still here. Now going to the opposite end of the spectrum, we've got our bum of the week. And look, normally I don't want to pile on too much on a backup quarterback who's just trying to do his best, but Jake Browning, what are we doing, my guy? We were led to believe that this was one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league. I mean, 4-3 record the last time he filled in for Burrow. Obviously losing Joe stinks and is going to lower your ceiling, but we thought Jake Browning could at least keep their floor at a reasonable level. Instead, their floor is at the center of the earth. Now, granted, in his first 2 starts, he has faced the Vikings and Broncos defenses, but this isn't just facing tough defenses and underperforming because of it. These games have been flat out non-competitive. On prime time against the Denver Broncos, the Bengals might as well have not showed up to the field. A 28-3 loss, shout out Patriots-Falcons Super Bowl, in which Jake Browning went 14 for 25 for 125 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, so I guess that's a plus, while taking 3 sacks. Just an abysmal, anemic performance, and one that should probably have the Bengals scouring the quarterback market if they still want to make anything out of this season. From our bum of the week to our fantasy football bust of the week, we've got AJ Brown. You know, I really thought we turned a corner last week with AJ Brown, but apparently this season is just going to be a NASCAR track for AJ, where even if you turn, eventually you're just going to end up right back where you started. This is now 3 out of 4 games where he has been utterly useless for fantasy purposes. Just 2 catches on 9 targets for 7 yards. And it's been so bad, it's got him acting cryptic on Twitter again. If you're not welcomed, not listened to, quietly withdraw. Don't make a scene, shrug your shoulders, and be on your way. That's a quote posted by AJ Brown a day after the game. Now look, AJ, if you're unhappy, I know a team out there that could really use an alpha wide receiver, has the cap space and draft picks to make it happen, and has a coach with some prior connections to you. Yes, the Eagles would have to eat about $90 million in dead cap if they were to trade you, so it's definitely not happening, but we don't have to talk about that part. Come to the Patriots. Next, we have the game of the week, and I know this award show series is still in its infancy, but I feel pretty confident that this might be the first and only time this award goes to a tie, because the Packers-Cowboys game was the most electric tie I've ever seen in my life. A 40-40 barn burner with back and forth action the entire way. It was an incredible Sunday Night Football game, even though it had an ending that left fans just generally confused. Do we boo? Do we cheer? What exactly is the vibe here? Nobody really knew. But the vibe for us neutral fans is that it was really entertaining. And that's why I'm also giving the Tom Brady Clutch Performance of the Week award to 2 co-winners, the quarterbacks of that game, Dak Prescott and Jordan Love. Both guys put on a clinic, especially Dak Prescott, who came into the game with the tall task of facing what many believe to be one of the best defenses in the NFL, and all he did was throw dot after dot all night long. 31 for 40 for 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, adding another touchdown on the ground, and then Jordan Love, 31 for 43 for 337 yards and 3 touchdowns, also no interceptions, chipping in 3 carries for 28 yards on the ground. A masterful performance from both of these guys. Again, just highly entertaining. Next, we have the Where the F Did That Come From award for the best unexpected performance, and it goes to Kenneth Gainwell. This wasn't just your average backup running back steps in for the starter and holds down the fort type of performance. This was an incredible game for Gainwell, highlighted by multiple individual efforts on his part to lead the Steelers, that's right, I said lead the Steelers, to a victory over the Minnesota Vikings in Dublin. Maybe he just really likes Ireland. I don't know. All I know is when given the opportunity, this guy sure can gain well. Now with that said, I'm also giving the I'm Not Falling for That award to the Pittsburgh Steelers, not necessarily just for this game, but for their 3-1 start as a whole. Yeah, I just don't buy it. I'll give them credit for exceeding expectations up to this point for sure. They're sitting on top of the AFC North, and that's something to be excited about. I'm just not banking on it continuing. Their wins so far this season have come against the Jets, the Patriots in a game where they turned the ball over 5 times, and the Carson Wentz-led Vikings. Not exactly murderer's row. Now, does the schedule get tougher in the immediate future? Not really. They've got the Cleveland Browns this week, and the Browning Bengals the week after that, but eventually these shenanigans will cease, even if every other team in their division is actively falling apart at the seams. Next, we've got the team of the week, and this award's really turning into one that just goes to bad teams who decided to not be bad that given week, and I'm okay with that. It's good to give some love to the little guys. And this week, it's the New York Giants. In a game against the Chargers that I would have picked LA to win 100 times out of 100, Jackson Dart breathed some life into a perpetually down bad Giants fan base, leading them to a 21-18 victory in his first ever start. It wasn't a banner day passing for Dart, just 13 for 20 for 111 yards and a touchdown, but he got it done with his legs, taking 10 carries for 54 yards and another score on the ground. Honestly, watching him and Cam Scatterbo in the same backfield is terrifying. Just 2 white boys with absolutely no regard for their own health or well-being, ready to run directly through you like the Kool-Aid man through a wall. While the brain cell count may be actively dwindling for these two, the win count is rising. And if their play style is any indication, I'm pretty sure that's all they care about. Our play of the week occurred in this game as well, with sexy Dexy Dexter Lawrence batting a ball at the line of scrimmage, catching it himself, and almost taking it all the way for a pick six. There is nothing I enjoy more in football than watching an incredibly large man run the ball down the field. Our Offensive Player of the Week award goes to a guy who was equally as good this week as he has been all season long, and it's finally time to give him some recognition. It's Puka Nacua. This dude is looking like the best wide receiver in all of football, averaging over 10 catches and over 100 yards per game, including his 13 catch, 170-yard performance in week 4, adding a touchdown on top of it. The fact this dude was so overlooked in the draft will never not baffle me. And the fact the rest of the league let Sean McVay get his hands on him makes me feel like every team is getting exactly what they deserve when Puka runs up and down the field all over him. Our Defensive Player of the Week is going to be Devin Lloyd. The performance of this Jaguars defense may be the most under-discussed storyline of the NFL season so far, because they are leaning on their defense to win games while their offense still remains kind of in flux. Looking at you, Brian Thomas Jr. Devin Lloyd was the biggest standout of this defense, or any defense this week, tallying 2 interceptions as a linebacker, adding 8 total tackles and a tackle for loss on top of it, fueling one of the biggest upsets of the week, the Jags over the 49ers in San Francisco. Lloyd has more L's in his last name than the Jags have in their record a month into the season, and I think that's a pretty big win. Our Offensive Rookie of the Week, finally, is Ashton Jeanty. After 3 straight weeks of no real production to speak of, it seems like the Raiders and Chip Kelly finally remembered Jeanty was on their team, and he also just had the good fortune of playing the Bears. But he racked up 21 carries for 138 yards and a touchdown, adding 2 catches for 17 yards and 2 more touchdowns through the air, almost like utilizing Ashton Jeanty in the passing game is a good idea, and hopefully this is a start of more to come. And Ashton Jeanty is also the winner of our Bugatti in the Trailer Park Award, because despite the 3 touchdowns, the Raiders lost this game, because of course they did. Next, we've got our Defensive Rookie of the Week, and shout out to my followers on Twitter for always recommending me good Defensive Rookies of the Week. Again, this is just a harder award for me to track myself. And for week 4, it goes to Jonas Sanker. The 3rd round pick out of Virginia had a great game against Josh Allen and the Bills, with Sanker intercepting Josh Allen while also deflecting 3 other passes, Sanker's first 3 pass deflections of the season. And he's a big reason this game was a lot closer than it should have been until the 4th quarter. I mean, we're talking about a 21-19 game when the 4th quarter started, before Josh Allen threw the dagger to Dalton Kincaid. So shout out to Jonas Sanker, one of the bright spots on a team with not a lot of bright spots. Comeback Player of the Week. Now, a month into the season, we're starting to get to that point where if you don't have a good game after a brutal start, I think it's reasonable to start getting worried that you might just be bad all year. Again, looking at you, Brian Thomas Jr., which means it's also the time that players who do plan to be good this year are going to start showing it. And that's exactly what Drake London did in week 4. 8 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown, his first really productive game of the season, and I expect to see plenty more of this as the season goes on. The Unk Still Got It award is going to go to Matthew Stafford, 29 for 41 for 375 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions, to give the Indianapolis Colts their first loss of the season at the ripe age of 37 years old. Stafford keeps reminding us that he's not going anywhere if he doesn't want to. Oh, excuse me. Looks like I've got a snake in my boot, because this week's Breakout Player of the Week is Woody Marks. Real quick, if you don't know the story, his real name is Jaquavius, but he got the nickname Woody when he was a kid because he dressed up as Woody from Toy Story for like 7 straight Halloweens. We should have known he was going to be elite right then and there. Woody Marks seems to have finally taken the backfield over from Grandpa Nick Chubb, an Unk who sadly definitely does not still got it. I still love you forever, Nick. But Woody, much like a ripe orange at a fruit stand, just has too much juice to ignore, and the Texans are starting to realize it. They gave him 21 touches this past week, which he turned into 119 total yards and 2 touchdowns, and I think it's fair to say this performance marks his official breakout. The funniest touchdown of the week has to go to Mitchell Evans. Evans is the 3rd tight end on the Carolina Panthers depth chart, and he caught his touchdown from Andy Dalton in the clearest definition of garbage time you will ever see in the NFL. Because my Patriots whooped them, and it made me feel all sorts of ways. The Quentin Johnson Award, and look, enough's enough. I can't keep calling it the Quentin Johnson Award. The guy has been legitimately good for a month now. So drop a comment below and tell me who I should name this award after instead. Again, it is for the worst drop of the week. And honestly, Marvin Harrison Jr. might be as good a candidate as any at this point, because this is his 2nd straight week winning it. You know what's worse than just a straight up drop? A drop that you drop for so long that it ends up in the arms of a defender and turns into an interception. It almost takes talent to do that, but not the type of talent the Cardinals were hoping Marvin Harrison Jr. would have. Now granted, he did bounce back in this game. He had a nice touchdown grab, ended up with a solid stat line overall, but the start of this man's career has not been great. And it seems like he has less chemistry with Kyler than I did with every girl I liked in high school. The Will Levis Award goes to Adonai Mitchell, because the only thing worse than dropping a pass is dropping a pass you've already caught, for no apparent reason, right as you cross the goal line. This was quite literally the difference in the game. The Colts only lost by 7, and on top of that, he got called for a hold on a Jonathan Taylor 58-yard touchdown run, which may or may not have been a touchdown if he didn't hold, but it sure would have been cool to find out. Terrible day for AD Mitchell overall. Just gotta stop doing dumb stuff. Really comes down to that. Honorable mention for the Will Levis Award also goes to the Jets and Isaiah Williams for calling a fair catch on a punt at the 2-yard line. Oh, and it should go without saying, but Adonai Mitchell is also the winner of the Don't Check Your DMs Award. Probably in his best interest just to delete social media altogether. The Nathan Peterman Award for worst interception goes to Geno Smith. Not for any one particular interception, just kind of for his performance on the day as a whole. I don't know what happened to Geno Smith. For the last few years in Seattle, Geno was genuinely one of the most fun quarterbacks to watch and one of the most accurate quarterbacks to watch. Heck, there was a pretty large contingent out there that said Geno Smith was a top 10 quarterback, and I was kind of starting to agree with him until he started relentlessly throwing the ball to the other team, as he now leads the NFL with 7 interceptions in just 4 games. Yikes. The Kyle Pitts Award for all hype and no substance goes to Trey Benson. This is the guy that coming into the year, the Cardinals staff and even James Conner himself were saying was going to be a 1B to Conner's 1A, and while he was performing pretty well as a compliment to Conner through the first few games, apparently taking over for Conner was too much pressure, and he pooped his big boy pants. Just 8 carries for 35 yards, while tacking on 5 catches for just 19 yards, as he watched Amari DiMercato find the end zone. Not a terrible performance from Benson, but just not what we were led to believe was possible for him, especially for those fantasy owners relying on his production. Sorry guys, not everyone can be Kenneth Gainwell. The Nathaniel Hackett Award for Worst Coach of the Week goes to a guy who I have to give this award to now, because I don't know how many more opportunities I'll have before he gets fired, Brian Callahan. It is just not going well for Callahan in Tennessee. The Titans just got shut out by their division rival Houston Texans 26-0, and it seems like a matter of time before he's gone. Tennessee knows they can't waste any time with Cam Ward. They need to put him in the best situation they possibly can, and Brian Callahan simply is not that situation. Now our next award is a new one, a great suggestion from Damian Lang, who said we need a Coach of the Week award, and I totally agree. We've been giving out the Worst Coach of the Week award, but not a Best Coach of the Week award, so it's time to spread some more positivity, and our Coach of the Week is Liam Cohen, for not just pulling off the upset over the San Francisco 49ers, but for jawing at Robert Saleh and telling him, keep my name out your mouth. Absolutely wild behavior, especially since Saleh looks like he could turn Cohen into a 2x2 flesh cube faster than you could say Duval. And wrapping things up with our Lord and Savior award, you know the drill, it's Bucky Irving, who actually had his best game of the season against the Eagles. 15 carries for 63 yards and 5 catches for 102 yards and a touchdown through the air. Just another reminder that in Bucky, we sucky. That'll do it for this week. If you guys have any award suggestions, drop them in the comments. You never know, I might add it in. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.